Hello and welcome. You're watching the Friday edition of This Is Exclusive. Tonight on this episode of This Is Exclusive, I come to you with two special investigative stories. A story that has not been spoken about in the Indian media and has got massive ramifications. But up first, let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this.
बिहार में भी नीतीश बाबू के नेतृत्व में एनडीए जीत के अपने पुराने सारे रिकॉर्ड तोड़ने वाला है.
Prime Minister announces NDA will fight under Nitish Kumar's leadership and break all records. $1 billion cyber scam unearthed in Myanmar. Security forces have raided a Chinese-backed scam hub notorious for trafficking and online fraud. After India's Indus strike, Afghanistan uses similar strategy. Kabul to build dam on Kunar River. Delhi police busts major ISIS model with two accused in custody. Investigation reveals terror aids planned blast at a mall in New Delhi. Starting this edition with an investigative piece. This is with regards to $1 billion cyber scam, which an empire that has been unearthed in Myanmar. It's a major crackdown. Security forces have raided the infamous KK Park. This happens to be a Chinese-backed scam hub notorious for trafficking and online fraud. Nearly 700 people, which includes 399 Indians, have fled to Thailand as the compound's operations collapses. Authorities say those detained include nationals from China, Vietnam, Indonesia and several other countries, exposing the vast cross-border web of cybercrime run from Myanmar's borderlands. Just imagine this. Many here in India and in the United States of America have received these very calls. Calls that were only to dupe you and your money. In fact, it turns out that this was a web of activities that were taking place in the Thailand-Myanmar border. KK Park, in fact, happens to be one of those areas where 216 unregistered buildings were present, and from these very buildings, this entire cyber crime was perpetrated. How exactly you and I should really respond to this? The reality is this, that these digital scams that were essentially taking place was actually happening from these very places. In fact, we're going to first take you through an in-depth report which takes you right inside KK Park in Myanmar. That's where the raids were basically carried out, and it turns out that a large number of Indians were present there.
KK Park, at the heart of Mayabadi township in Myanmar. A Chinese-backed fortress, infamous as Southeast Asia's cybercrime citadel. Behind its glossy facade, whispers of law enforcers, diplomats, and dirty scams swirl. This Chinese-funded compound has long stayed under Myanmar's radar till February's storm. Over 700 foreigners pushed across into Thailand. According to Myanmar Allen newspaper, a massive military raid has unearthed Starlink terminals illegally operational inside the compound. The park's identity, murky, masked and vague. Experts say the military has turned a blind eye to these crimes. Others whisper that ethnic militia secretly holds the reins. The junta pins the cyber chaos on the Karen National Union, accusing the ethnic group of fueling online fraud while opposing army rule. Thousands trafficked into digital slavery since COVID-19. Even after the crackdown, the cyber web runs deep. Authorities may have skimmed the surface, but there's still a lot more left to be scratched.
Well, in fact, now I'm going to try and explain what exactly is this scam all about and why it impacts your lives too. In fact, in the United States of America, the Treasury Department has already indicated that billions of dollars have been lost because of these crimes that have been perpetrated from this very place called the KK Park. The images that we just showed you a short while back, because right from inside there, this entire activity was being carried out. I want to go full frame with first the details of this particular graphic. Let's first go through the graphics that we have just put out, and then I'm going to go through the breaking news coming in with regards to how there is an India link. I'm going to now tell you the number of individuals who have essentially been identified and how exactly have they been carried out. In fact, it turns out, according to Myanmar's army, the raids were basically carried out over a period of 3 days. And it was at the KK Park where we are given to understand these operations were being carried out. And it started back in the month of September when inputs actually came in that Starlink devices were also being used. And it now turns out these devices were essentially used to carry out a full-fledged cybercrime. So there was various types of cybercrime that have essentially been perpetrated from this very place. Let me now take you through the details that we have and the modus operandi. The army essentially has blamed a certain group. It's the militia which has been guarding this very KK Park from where the operations were being carried out. Now that's what they are saying. KNU basically essentially defines the junta's rule there. The junta at some level have also now raised concerns because it directly impacts the junta. Land has essentially been leased out to them, so it clearly indicates that the junta was aware of it, and this crackdown is coming in only after growing international pressure. The KNU there has already denied all the charges that have been leveled so far. Let me now take you through the operation that has been carried out, and Thailand has put out the numbers. This perhaps happens to be the biggest number in terms of those who were present there. Let's take you through the breaking news now coming in. This in terms of those who were present there. In fact, Thai border police has now confirmed that 399 Indians were among those who tried to flee from the notorious KK Park. Now this, as I've been pointing out, it's a Chinese-run cyber scam enclave in Myanmar. The crackdown has essentially exposed how hundreds of Indians and Chinese nationals were essentially trapped inside the compound, allegedly forced into large-scale online fraud operations. In fact, what you see right now, these are images from inside the KK Park. In fact, there are also pictures that we have got. Can we go full frame to the pictures of the Starlink equipment that we are going to also, the details of it that we're going to put out in a short while from now, the Starlink equipments that have been seized. Now, the army has essentially indicated that 260 buildings were unregistered and seized equipments, 30 sets of Starlink satellite internet terminals, and 2,198 individuals have been detained, though initially they did not want to reveal their nationalities. Remember, this very place is notorious for hosting scam operations. They are basically responsible for defrauding people all over the world, and it usually involves gaining victims' confidence online. In fact, this also includes romantic ploys and bogus investment pitches that have essentially been made, and that's how people have lost their money. And these centers are basically infamous for recruiting the workers from other countries under false pretenses, promising them legitimate jobs and then holding them captive and forcing them to carry out the criminal activities. Let me now go across to our reporters on the ground. In fact, Republic TV has reached out to our reporters in Cambodia. Sinon is joining us. Sinon, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. And my colleague Soumya is also joining us from Myanmar. embassy in the national capital. So, first I want to ask you with regards to the operations that have been carried out. It turns out several Cambodians were also involved. What is it that you know in terms of the investigation that has been carried out by your agencies?
Yeah, currently the Cambodian authority has stepped up on breakdown on the online scam network, launching a nation task force and carrying out the raid across the countries that, as a result, it lead to the thousand arrests and deportation. The government is also cooperating with the international partners and also the global pressure rising. And the government is also planning to implement another new task force booming to pursue the kingpin. This strategy to protect the victim and also the ensure dignities across. This is according to the recent statement from Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation. And this is also following the recent pressure, including from the UK and the US imposed a sanction on the group of running a large-scale compound in Cambodia. And the South Koreans is also have raised concern over their nation being the victims of in the compound state after a 22 years old university student found that and linking to the online state in Cambodia. However, despite these authority are concerned, the rights group also acknowledge the progress in real in Cambodia, but the investigation is still focused on most likely on the low-level workers, and many of them trafficking to the victim, while the key mastermind remain untouched, as the statement. And the government response did that mention the high-profile person.
Sinon, yeah.
Right.
I'll just request you to stay on with us because I just want to quickly take another breaking news now coming in, because we have also accessed the images of 30 Starlink satellite machines that were basically used. These were satellite internal terminals that were largely used, and these are the first set of images that we've accessed. This is part of the major crackdown that was carried out. Now, the high-speed communication devices capable of operating without local networks were confiscated amid concerns over their unauthorized use and potential security implication. It turns out that Starlink authorities have also acted upon it. Can we please go full frame with the visuals of the Starlink devices that have been seized by the junta there? These are the images coming in from the Myanmar army. Let me go across to my colleague Soumya, who's joining us on this broadcast. Soumya, what's the India link here? You've also spoken to the investigative agencies here in the national capital. It seems that many of the digital arrests or the digital frauds that have been carried out, they were being perpetrated from this very place where the raids were being carried out.
Yes, well, see, as far as we talk about the India link here, there are two links. One, where we have seen the increase in number of victims here in India who were targets of these digital scams, the digital arrest scams for that matter. Now, the other link that we will be focusing on next will be the Indian people who got caught up, who basically were present in one of such campuses, compounds, as far as the KK Park is concerned, or for that matter, even when the raids or the operations, when those were launched earlier this year by the Cambodian authorities as well, back in Cambodia. So a large number of Indians were also detained by the authorities as far as Thai authorities are concerned, or for that matter, as far as Cambodian authorities are concerned. Now, if we talk about the Indians who have been, who fled after the after the raid or the operation that took place by the Myanmar army there in KK Park. After that, around 700 people fled to the Tak province of Thailand. The Thai police has given this information that more than 300 of such nationals are Indian nationals, and after proper screening, they have released this statement saying that most of these appear to be victim of trafficking, and later stage they will be able to give more information with regards to these Indians that have been detained back there in Thailand. However, as per initial screenings, most of these Indians who have fled and have been detained by Thai authorities at the border area are victim of trafficking. So this is how it functions. This digital scam circle is functioning. They are basically functioning on the basis of human trafficking, wherein they are promising people with high-paying jobs, and in other cases there is a forced labors as well. They are being asked to shift to such and such place, wherein they are made to work forcefully and work for these scam groups, which are mostly run by Chinese criminal syndicates. So these are the developments that we are picking up as far as the India link is concerned.
Well, thank you very much, Trinon, who's joining us from Cambodia, and Sobia from the national capital. A story that we'll be tracking very closely, as it turns out that the Thai authorities have now indicated that those who have basically crossed over, a proper protocol is essentially being followed, and thereafter perhaps they would be released. We're trying to get more details as to who exactly are these Indians and what is it that they have to say, because some have already indicated that they were forced to be present there. Well, in fact, the other big story that we're getting to tonight, this is part of what Afghanistan has been saying as a tit for tat. Afghanistan, in fact, has borrowed from India's playbook this week to restrict Pakistan's access to water by building the dams across the Kunar River as soon as possible, is what they had said. The order essentially came in from Supreme Leader Akhundzada, and saying that Afghans have the right to manage their own water. Pakistan, facing attacks from all sides, already begging for Indus water, now faces another water strike. On your screens right now, the developments that have taken place so far. In fact, Kunar River, which happens to be a tributary of Kabul River, that's where we're expecting that the Afghans are now planning to make a dam. Apart from that, the other place where the dam is being made or constructed is the Shatut Dam. That's where India's role essentially comes into the picture, as India has now pledged that as far as hydroelectric projects are concerned, India would play a constructive role there. Apart from that, remember, there are about 9 river basins which have a direct connection with Pakistan. And the direct impact would be in the regions of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as Balochistan, because you have in the Kurram region itself the rivers that are essentially flowing, starting from the Gobal River that you see right now on your screens. It flows into Pakistan's South Waziristan. There too, remember, there are plans essentially of building a dam over a period of time. In fact, it turns out that from Kurram region to where the Kurram River crosses into Pakistan's Kurram region, that's where again yet another plan of perhaps controlling the water flow. Remember, Pakistan and Afghanistan do not have any treaty or any treaty like what we've had with the Indus Water Treaty. There isn't such treaty as far as Afghanistan and Pakistan goes, and that is the reason why Afghanistan once again pointing out that it is their sole right, and they have it what they have been calling water sovereignty. On your screens right now, the impact that it would essentially have with any decision that Afghanistan takes right now. The Kunar Dam perhaps may take some more time because it is at an initial stage where we are being told that they're now asking local companies to come up and start building the dam, and the impact that it is going to have may have a little bit more time. But with the Shatut Dam that has already taken into consideration, that dam, remember, with India playing a pivotal role. Now, how exactly is the Taliban really responding to some of the charges that have been leveled against them by the Pakistanis? Here you have the chief Taliban spokesperson, Zabihullah Mujahid, who spoke to my colleague when we sent him questions with regards to how exactly is Afghanistan really responding to the TTP issue raised by Pakistan. He reiterated that they have not harmed any foreign country through Afghanistan and will not allow any country to use it to harm the security of another country. In fact, we've also asked him with regards to what's the situation like in Durand Line, because from the time Taliban has come to power, they'd made it very clear that they are not going to accept the Durand Line. And that happens to be one of the bone of contentions or the trigger point of the clashes that have taken place between both the countries. Listen.
Joining us here on the phone line is Chief Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid, speaking to us right at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Zabihullah, for joining us. A very important questions, of course. My first question to you is, Pakistan has warned you regarding TTP. How do you respond?
TTP افغانستان کا مسئلہ نہیں ہے، وہ پاکستان کا مسئلہ ہے۔ ہم کوئی بیرونی ملک کی بھی افغانستان سے ضرر نہیں پہنچ گئی اور اس کو اجازت نہیں دیتا ہوں کہ ہمارے ملک سے کوئی استعمال کے ساتھ کوئی اور ملک کی امنیت خراب ہو گئی۔ ہم ٹی ٹی پی کا مسئلہ کیا پاکستان کا مسئلہ کہنا ہوں اور یہ افغانستان کا مسئلہ نہیں۔ ٹی ٹی پی افغانستان میں موجود نہیں، ہم اجازت نہیں دیتا ہوں۔
Well, a very important question, of course, as far as the continuous conflict is concerned, how do you plan to resolve the issue concerning Durand Line?
ڈیورن لائن مسئلہ آج کل کا مسئلہ نہیں ہے، ایک تاریخی مسئلہ ہے اور یہ مسئلے حل کا بھی دونوں طرفوں کے ڈیورن لائن دونوں طرفوں کے لوگ کا مسئلہ ہے۔ اس لوگوں میں آپس میں ایک مناسب زمانے میں فیصلہ کریں گا کہ اس مسئلے کی کوئی قسم کی رسمیت دیتا ہوں۔ اس ہماری حکومتی اور پاکستان کا حکومت کی بات نہیں، ملتوں کا بات ہے۔ یہ دونوں ملت میں ایک مناسب زمان کے اس میں انشاءاللہ حل کریں گا۔
My last question to you, what are your expectations from India, sir?
ہم ہندوستان کا اچھے تعلقات چاہتا ہوں۔ جانتا ہوں کہ ہندوستان ایک منطقے میں مہم ملک ہے۔ افغانستان کے ساتھ انہوں نے تجارت اور صحت میں مدد کر سکتا ہے اور افغانستان میں بھی افغانی اموال کے انتقال کے لیے ہندوستان کا ضرورت ہے۔ افغانی محصلین تحصیل کے لیے اسٹوڈنٹس کے بھیجنا کا ضرورت ہے اور افغانستان میں مریضوں کو بھیجنا کا ضرورت ہے اور ہندوستان ہماری افغانستان کے ساتھ تاریخی طور پر بھی اچھی تعلقات رکھتے ہیں۔ ہم چاہتا ہوں کہ ہندوستان کی ڈپلومیٹک ساحے اور تجارتی اور اکنامک ساحے میں تعلقات اچھی ہوئیں اور یہ تعلقات افغانستان اور پاکستان کی افغانستان اور افغانستان کے ملی منافع کے اساس میں استوار ہے اور یہ تعلقات کوئی اور ملک میں خلاف پر نہیں۔
My colleague Hashmat is joining us from Kabul, and Chandrakala, who's spoken to the chief spokesperson of the Taliban government. First to you, Hashmat, with regards to the big decision that has been made by the Taliban government with regards to the construction of the Kunar Dam. What more are you picking up in terms of the timeline? By when are we to expect that the Kunar Dam is going to come up? And more importantly, are we to expect more decisions from the Taliban government in order to counter the threats emerging from Pakistan?
Yeah, good evening to most like that is entering to the Pakistan, and before years we didn't do anything about it, but it's fortunately the fears that Salman came and Herat, it was that, and also, we know that of Shot and Kabul River. Also, Islamic Emirat officials said to me, some of them off the record, that they are trying to have more dams in next few years in Afghanistan, especially the big river is Kunar River, and they are trying to control all the water, and they make many dams in Afghanistan, and that's a big achievement for Afghanistan, and this absolutely right, and our base that we started on dam, Kura River dams shortly.
Well, Ashma, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. I'll request you to stay on. Chandrakala, I'm really running short of time. 30 seconds to you with regards to the assistance that is being provided by India to Afghanistan. Chatur Dam was certainly one such. Anything that you are picking up in terms of the long-term assistance that India is now pledging to the Taliban government?
Well, absolutely. We have seen, India has been a steadfast partner to Afghanistan, and of course the fact that the Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid has also pointed out clearly that how India is one of the most crucial and strategic partner to Afghanistan, where he have said that India can help Afghanistan in areas of health, of course, as well as trades. When it comes to trades, of course, Afghanistan also needs India to send Afghan goods. So we know the relations between Afghanistan and India has been stronger, although India doesn't officially recognize Taliban regime, but of course the relations between India and Afghanistan continues to grow stronger, and of course the Taliban spokesperson has clearly mentioned that India has historically good relations with Afghanistan, and of course they want India to have good relations in the diplomatic, trade and economic spheres. Also, this comes at a time when the Afghan foreign minister was visiting New Delhi, where we have seen diplomatic talks taking place between the Afghan foreign minister and external affairs minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Chandrakala, for getting us the latest details. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. Coming up, trending with my colleague Rakshita.